Hi. As I was looking at my own Mexican culture or Latino culture, I was seeing that there's a lot of Middle Eastern influences. I mean, just my name itself, Manuel, comes from Emmanuel, which is Hebrew for God is with us. And I've noticed a lot more names and everything else have like the Middle Eastern kind of influences. So I decided to do my study today, or this report on um, the Iranian culture, Middle Eastern, because I'm not familiar with them at all, and because some other reasons that I'm going to show to you in this report. And so let's get into it. So first of all, I learned many new things about the Iranian culture from Goldrick's ethnicity and family therapy. Therefore, I chose to explore the Iranian culture. Due to the COVID pandemic, it was difficult to find an event to attend during this time. Even going to a restaurant would not only it would only give me a superficial perspective of the culture since we could only eat outside. So for this assignment, I chose to use my recent experience at an Iranian event. This event was a celebration of the Iranian New Year, also known as the Persian New Year, or the Nowruz festival. It was attended by about 4,000 people, and it was held at Bill Barber's Memorial Park in Irvine. By using my visit at this event, I will explain what I learned. So I now know that I was basing my interpretations of the Iranian culture on stereotypes. I was asked to participate in an evangelical outreach to the Iranian people at this event. I had never been around this culture before. The person that asked me to participate said that all of these people were Muslim. This person had gone to evangelize Muslims before, and he has had many confrontations with Muslims. I know this person very well and has shown to have good character, but he seemed to be very cautious and uncharacteristic of himself when it came to dealing with Muslims. But I took his perspective seriously. He said that this culture tends to be very aggressive and that they did not like Christians. He said that when we walk through the crowds, we have to maintain visual contact in case one of us gets assaulted or hurt. I can see why my friend had this perspective. He has been in the center of extreme persecution in other states, and he has been arrested for his faith. I know that he does care for people and that he is willing to go through persecution in order to bring the gospel to people. But I was not used to doing his type of confrontational type evangelism. But I did know that God wanted me to speak with the Iranian culture for some reason. Therefore, I stepped out of my comfort zone and attended the event. I expected this culture to be aggressive towards me. It was not that I never knew an Iranian. I did have a friend in high school that was Iranian, but I did not have any stereotypes back then. He was just one of the guys that I hung around with. I was not very close to him, but he was pretty cool. I think the difference in what I was experiencing now was that I was connecting this culture to negative stereotypes regarding Muslims. Through my experience at the celebration, I learned that I was foolish for making decisions based on stereotypes. I know, excuse me, I know that the reason, it's just a paper, I'm getting sentimental, but I know that the reason God wanted me to attend this event was not to save these people. That's his job. It was to see them, to get to know them, and to fall in love with them, just as he loves them. I was completely and pleasantly surprised at what I found out about this culture. The people at the park were beautiful. They were friendly, even hospitable. Another surprise was in how familiar the Iranian culture is to my Latino culture. As I walked through the park, I saw the men grouped together laughing as they spoke with one another. I heard high, loud voices of women laughing and chasing after their kids. They sounded just like my mom, my mother. I even saw the teenagers hanging around with the family. All the celebration needed was a few piñatas. And I would say it was exactly like a Latino or Mexican celebration. I was instantly connected with them. I enjoyed going up to the men and having great conversations with them. They were not aggressive at all. They were very welcoming and open-minded. They listened to me speak about the Bible and they gave me their opinions. I did notice that the women were not as social as the men, but some of them did speak with me. Although according to McGoldrick, 98% of Iranians' population is Muslims, that might be true, I noticed that many of the people at the park were not religious at all. When I asked about their faith, they really did not know about Islam. I would ask questions regarding their faith, and they would mostly answer that they believed that there was a God, but that they would not think that a religion was the way to know God. I was very surprised by this. I have spoken to many people about their faith, and I have heard this type of answer by many. But I never thought I would hear it from Muslims or who are said to be Muslim. It reminded me of Latinos who say they are Catholic, but whom do not read the Bible or do not actually go to church, except for what would be considered a more traditional day such as Easter. At the center of the festival, there were some stands. And the one that stood out the most was the one that was sharing about the Quran. I went to that stand. The people manning the stand were young adults. They sounded very enthusiastic about sharing the Quran. I had some dialogue with, them, and it was a joy. They told me some of their perspectives of their faith, as well as they heard some of mine. Culturally, they sounded just like the young adults I was very familiar with. As I read McGoldrick's text, I was able to get more insight to the Iranian culture that I had observed at the celebration. Although I saw that my culture had many similarities to the Iranian culture, and that people were somewhat Americanized, I was able to see the uniqueness of their culture. Because like McGoldrick stated, time and time again, Iran has managed to absorb cultural influences without losing its own identity and continuity. This is important to note in therapy, because the Iranian culture can create a sense of pride that will make an individual not easily accept or admit that they have made a mistake. According to McGoldrick, Iranians' cultural, historical, and individual pride may account for their boastfulness, impatience with learning, and difficulty in admitting mistakes. This means that although they may seem to be open, one would have to be patient and build a good relationship to establish a more open and collaborative therapeutic process. It was obvious at the park that the Iranian culture is family-oriented, and it seems that family can be part of the therapeutic process. It goes along with McGoldrick's suggestion that every attempt should be made to involve extended family members in therapy if they are available. I feel that family can also help the counselor gain trust because, as McGoldrick states about Iranians, individuals must always be on guard to protect themselves. Speaking of the Iranians, they fear that others will take advantage of them. Trusting relationships exist mainly with family members and lifelong friends. This was interesting to learn because at the park, I would not have thought this. They were very friendly and approachable. Yet, for the therapeutic process, I would have to take what I learned from the text into consideration so that I can help the client in a more meaningful way. What I learned from our text is that for the Iranian culture, the self is divided into the outer self. This according to McGoldrick, excuse me. The self is divided into the outer self, which the individual presents the outside world, so that's the outer self, and the inner self, which guards strongly against strangers and is revealed only to intimates and very close friends. um, when I was at the park, the Iranian culture was, as a whole, very hospitable. They made me feel very welcomed, but I have to remember that if someone from the Iranian culture comes for help, I might initially be speaking with the outer self. So at the park, I was speaking mainly with the outer self. If I want to gain the privilege of speaking with the inner self of the individual, I have to let him or her know that I sincerely want to help them and that I want to be the friend as we walk through the therapeutic process together. I'm glad that I learned many new things about the Iranian culture. I chose to explore the Iranian culture because I have personally been affected by their culture in a great way. This is why, for this assignment, I chose to use my recent experience at the celebration of the Iranian New Year. I was able to be in the midst of 4,000 wonderful people from the Iranian culture. They helped me learn many things about myself and their culture. From that experience and our text, I also learned how to better serve those from the Iranian culture. I now know that God's love is the best perspective to view different cultures through. Thank you.